Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today, instead of doing a review, we are doing a top 10 list. Yeah.
10.
Oh, hold on. I can do that too. 10! I'm drinking tea. It's too important. So we are doing our top 10 favorite horror games. Side note, we're not horror people.
Yeah, I mean, so Halloween's coming up. It's always fun to talk about this kind of stuff, but really, we're not the kind of people who go to haunted houses. We don't watch scary movies. We like maybe a little bit of spookiness, right? Like Hocus Pocus style Halloween, not like, like It or something.
Yeah, no, dear goodness, no.
So this list is not going to be like true horror. It's going to be like spooky themed stuff, but usually pretty lighthearted for the most part on these lists.
Yeah, so just be warned about that.
If you're like super horror, gory, and suspense,
watch the whole thing so you can be disappointed.
And if you just like fun, lighthearted, spooky things, stay tuned.
Watch the whole thing. All right, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can see your videos as they come out. And I'm going to start. So my number 10 is Go Away Monster. This is like the lightest.
Super scary, right?
This is like the lightest of all games. The reason why this game made my list is because it was the first game that we played with both of our daughters. So it's this game where you're trying to basically get puzzle pieces kind of on a board. There's a bed, a lamp, a bear, and a picture, and you're drawing it in this bag. But if you draw in the bag and you draw a monster, you yell at it and you say, "Go away, monster," and then you throw it away. And both of our daughters loved doing that. And it was kind of nice to just build this, like, strengthen them of if they see something, you just say, "Go away, monster," and you just nip it in the butt. So my number 10 is Go Away Monster.
My number 10 is Salem. This is all about kind of that Salem witch trials, that era, right? But it's a social deduction game, but there's a little bit more to it. It's kind of got like this logic puzzle thing going on. So you've got all these cards in front of you, and someone's going to say basically, okay, so this one over here is the same as this one over here. Okay, well, what does that mean? Later on in the game, you might find out that one of those is a witch. So then that would mean you have to write all this stuff down, you have tracking all this, and okay, well, that means both of them are a witch. And then someone else might say, okay, so this card and this card are different. So you have to write that down, and later on you might find out what one of them is, and then be able to deduce what the other one is based off of that information. So you're constantly writing stuff down and trying to figure out if someone tips away too much information and they give away too much, then you fill that out, you figure out what all this kind of the puzzle is. It's got a super cool theme, and the gameplay was really interesting too.
My number 9 is ScoobyDoo Escape from the Haunted Mansion, and this is a one-shot escape room style game. It was really fun because you're playing the different characters of the Scooby Gang, and you start in one room, and you have to piece together the puzzle pieces to open up a different room, and then you can explore that. And then after you've explored that, because of how the game works, you're not playing all the characters at the same time, you can have other characters come back to the room you've already explored to interact with it in different ways. So this is really fun. It plays in about 3 hours, so if you need a break, you can, because they build that into the game, but it was a really fun one-shot.
So my number 9 was Elder Sign. We had to throw at least one Cthulhu game in here, right? This is a cooperative dice-based game. You are trying to basically close all these portals and make it so that either Cthulhu or one of the other elder gods can't make it through. But if they do, then you have to fight them, and that's a whole other half of the game that's really challenging. You get these dice that these are really nice quality dice too, but that's really challenging. You have to get the exact right amount of symbols in order to match these things up, in order to get more items, get more weapons, get people to come to you. We have to team up to beat a specific card. You get these elder signs to kind of close that portal. And the dice made it really, really, really challenging. This is a game that I think we've only won maybe once out of the many times I've played it, at least.
Yeah, this was a game that made my top 0 of this list.
Yeah, I think you can play it solo though, so that's what I'm gonna have to do if I want to play it.
You got that. All right, so my number 8 is Clank, the Mummy's Curse. So this is an expansion for Clank. It has its own board, and there's this mummy that can go around the board, giving you curses if you're in the same area, or what else does it do? Or you can fight it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was just really fun to see that little twist on that deck building, dungeon crawling game. I prefer this expansion with a higher player count because then the mummy moves a lot more. But it was really fun because the die is...
It's a D4, so...
Yeah, it's a pyramid.
A pyramid?
Yeah.
Mummy?
Get it? But so my number 8 was Clank,
Sorry, everybody.
The Mummy's Curse. I do not apologize.
My number 8 is Betrayal on House of the Hill. This is kind of a haunted house in a box, right? So basically, it's a cooperative game for the first half of the game. You're going in there, you're exploring, you're adding all these tiles in, kind of getting all these different items as you're walking around. But at some point in the game, there's going to be a twist, and someone at the table is going to become a traitor, and they might not even know if it's them or not. But you basically separate. You figure out there's 2 different win conditions: one for the traitor, one for everybody else. There's a bunch of different scenarios. I think there's like 50 scenarios in the base box. Plus, there's more in the expansion. And it can get wildly unbalanced, right? So maybe
wildly unbalanced.
In some of the games, the traitor might have a huge advantage, and in some of the games, maybe the rest of the team has a huge advantage, or whatever it is. There is another version of this game called Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, which is like a D&D theme as opposed to the kind of haunted house theme. It has more scenarios are cooperative, in fact, sometimes, as opposed to just all competitive or this one versus many thing going on. But they're both really fun games, really interesting system.
So my number 7, maybe just qualified by some of y'all watching, it is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and there's just a really fun mystery about this, and in a lot of like horror or spooky themed things or entertainment, there's a mystery behind what's happening and what's going on. So I'm going to count this, but in this game you have all these newspaper clippings that you are trying to piece things together, and you can go visit people and read passages. Basically, you are trying to solve a mystery in as many or less steps than Sherlock Holmes, and so that's how you...
Which, like, never happens.
We did that once.
Did we?
Yeah, we did, but then the other time we just explored everything.
When we went like door to door, like knocking on the door.
We solved.
Do you know anything about this?
We solved so many of the side quests on this. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So that is my number 7.
My number 7 is Onoram. This is a solo card game, right? There's all these different nightmares, and you're trying to basically open these doors to get out of them by way of matching up these kind of sets of cards. So there's suns and moons, and there's some other keys and different things that we added in the expansions. But you're trying to get these 3 cards in a row into your tableau before you can kind of open one of these doors. You have to solve 8 doors, 2 of each suit or 2 of each color. There's 4 colors in the game. So the horror theme is pretty, not pasted, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't come through as far as the suspense or horror, but it's a really challenging solo card game, and it's the only solo game on the list, so I thought I had a good time with it.
Oh, there's 2 solo games for you on this list, because I won't play the other one with you.
Oh, there's not.
So, my number 6 is Escape from Hidden Castle? Or as we know it as Midnight Party. That Midnight Party was like the 1980s version of this game. And you are guests in this castle, or you're trying to escape this castle, and eventually a ghost comes out and roams the board, where you're trying to get your characters to go into these side rooms. The fun thing about this game, when it comes to... You'll realize on my list, I got a lot of games that we can play with our kids, because that's just like where we are in life. One of the fun things about this game is it can teach negative numbers really well, because the highest score in this game... Is it always a negative number? You'll always end up with negative numbers. In fact, we got the original game from a garage sale from a retired teacher who used this game specifically to teach about negative numbers. But it's this little ghost roaming the board, and you're trying to get your guys to not get attacked or tagged by the ghost. So, yeah.
Yeah. And by tagged, it means like possessed.
Sure.
So my number 6 is higher on someone else's list, somewhere at this table.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure whose list that would be.
I'm going to hoard some food and wait till then.
All right. So my number, what are we on? 5. My number 5 shows up higher on somebody else's list. So I'll put this chip right here on the card and then wait for the somebody else.
My number 5 is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. This is kind of a hidden traitor game. There's all these different clues in front of everybody. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out who is the actual murderer. So once amongst us at the table, we're all investigators trying to figure this out, but one of us is in fact the culprit. So we're trying to tie all these things together, trying to accuse someone. There's one person who's kind of running the whole show. They can't communicate with anybody, but they can... basically using the board itself and using the cards in the game kind of point people in certain directions. Yeah. And then it's up to the other players to kind of use that information to accuse other people. So as the traitor, you're like, oh, well, that certainly means that that's connecting you to that bad thing. So you're obviously the traitor. You're the bad
Obviously.
guy, and then everyone else is trying to figure out who it is, and it's a lot of fun.
My number four is, gosh darn it, guys, numbers should be easy. But my number 4 is Court of the Dead, Dark Harvest. This is one of the newer games that I've played, but this is a secret bidding game where you're trying to save souls, but souls are also how you're paying people off at the same time. So you're trying to hoard them, but you also need to use them. And I just really liked the production of this and the artwork and how you're trying to earn these favors to save these souls and just trying to beat other people out. And that if you don't work together, then you all lose type of thing. But you don't always want to work together because you want to save your souls. So I just really thought that this game was really fun and it's super fast.
All right, so my number 4 is Mysterium. And this is a cooperative game where basically there's a murder that happened, and everyone's trying to figure out who the murderer was. Now, the person who was murdered is, in fact, in the game. They are ghosts, but ghosts can't talk to you in the normal way. They're trying to talk to you through visions and dreams. And by way of showing these kind of really strange, abstract cards, and you're trying to interpret what those things mean. So when you're trying to figure out these things, you're trying to progress through the game. If you're able to figure it out in as few clues as possible, you're going to do better at the end game when you're probably trying to really narrow down who was the actual murderer. So I love Mysterium. Super spooky.
This is a great example about how people really make a difference in the game. The first time we played this at Gen Con, we played with a very domineering personality who was kind of a little sexist towards me, a lot of sexist towards me. I still remember it very clearly. But anyway.
If we find you.
Yeah.
Stern.
Looking like this.
Yeah.
But then we played this with Blake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it completely changed how I felt about the game. So thank you, Blake. But it just always keep that in mind when you play games like this.
Play with the right people.
Might be the people, not necessarily the game. So my number 3 is another example of games that we like to play with our children, and this is Spookies. This is a push your luck game where you're going into this haunted house and you're rolling dice, and the least amount of die numbers you use is your potential for scoring. So every level you go up, you have to get a higher pip number. It starts at 6 and it ends at 11. And like I said, you can use as many as 4 dice, but you don't get as many as you go up. And if you only use the 2 and those numbers combined get you the number, you can go higher up in this game. Our 7-year-old loves this game.
She asks for it like a lot.
She brings it to Grandma and Grandpa's house because she makes them play it with her because she really loves this game. She doesn't like it when she has to play one of the characters on it. She calls him the mean boy. But besides that, it's just really fun. This little, haunted house thing where you're going up, push your luck. It's super cute.
My number 3 is Nightfall. This is a deck building game in the kind of that horror world, right? It's got all these different werewolves and different vampires going on. But what I like most about it is the way the deck building itself works. There's these chains that can happen. There's cards that will have like a big green circle and a smaller green circle behind it saying if you put a green card behind it, you get to activate extra things, extra abilities. So you're constantly trying to chain things off of one another so you can maximize the amount of benefits that happen. And you're trying to add these wounds to other players' decks. But at the same time, when you get wounded yourself, it actually makes you draw more cards. So you're kind of like, it has this really nice balancing mechanism to it. You're getting wounded, but then you're also faster. But you have to wound the other person more than you're getting wounded, but that means they're going faster as well. And I really like that chaining mechanism. It's a deck builder that doesn't get talked about too often anymore, at least that's not that I hear. But it's perfect for this theme, and I personally like it a lot. Excuse me, I need some water.
I can give you some of my tea, but I drank it all. I just
tea
have
is my
now.
nightmare.
The game about you could have put chai in your list.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 2 comes up on somebody's list. I'm not sure who, so I'm just going to try to keep them separated for another turn.
All right, so my number 2, this is Bethany's number 5, and this is OBScurio. The word that gets used a lot is, it's a spiritual successor. And this is a spiritual successor to Mysterium, which I also really liked we talked about. But in this game, it is a cooperative game, but there is a traitor. So instead of there being a ghost trying to kind of feed you visions, instead you're trapped in this house, and there is a book that's trying to kind of feed you visions or feed you images that can kind of help you escape. And it's kind of nice because you actually use these little pointers to point to exact things on those cards.
Yeah.
However, one person at the table is in fact a traitor, and they are trying to steer people astray. So they are adding in cards that they know what your clues are going to be, what your cards are going to be, and they're adding things in there that are going to make people choose their card over the book's card. So there's a really interesting traitor thing going on. Yeah. There's a timed element to it, so where the longer you take, the more penalties you're going to have. These penalties are basically make it harder for the book to give clues accurately. Yeah. So that's super interesting.
And like with Mysterium and this, the artwork on the cards is just phenomenal. It is really, really neat. I mean, you could probably get prints of these if you wanted to because they're just that good. So my number 1 was Ryan's number 6, and that is Dead of Winter. And I heard people talk about this game for years, and I just played it for the first time last year, and I was like, why? Why haven't I played this game sooner? It was so much fun. And I just like, the thing that's great about this game is kind of like a zombie
Apocalypse.
Thank you. A survival game. And the thing that I thought was great about this game is that all your actions and the things that you did and the subsequent things that the game did to you made sense. So if you're traveling somewhere, you have to roll dice because you're making noise. If you go to the different stores, your likelihood of finding certain things when you're rummaging through made sense to the percentage of things that were in the deck while you're trying to find stuff. It just made a lot of sense thematically. And then there could potentially be a hidden traitor in this game, but I wouldn't even, because some people say they like that, don't like that. I don't even focus on that, because the thing about this game is you have a hidden objective as your character that you're trying to achieve while you're also trying to just survive the winter as this as a team. So it's really fun. And the fact that you have this hidden objective just makes sense, because as I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, humans don't tend to perform well under stress in a lot of areas. Some people do, some people don't, and they tend to hoard things. So in this game, your hidden objective could be to end with the most food. That could happen, like, in a real scenario like this.
Yeah, and that plus that makes you look like the traitor. It's like, why are you hoarding all this food, Ryan? It's like, well, I can't tell you why, but trust me, I'm one of the good guys. You know?
Exactly.
Well, maybe you are, maybe you aren't.
Yeah.
And plus, there's these crossroads cards, which are really cool.
Yeah.
At the beginning of return, you the person to the left of you or whatever, someone next to you flips over this card. They read it secretly, and if the objective that makes it trigger happens during your turn, they go, hold on, you read this card. And something happens, maybe you might find some more bad guys. Maybe you're presented with a choice, like, do you let this person, potentially die, but you get to get away scot-free, or do you both take a penalty? Or there's all a million different cards and effects that can happen with these crossroads cards. Super interesting game.
Yeah.
I love it. Like I said, my number, was it 6?
Yeah.
So my number 1, this is Bethany's number 2, and this is Horrified. This is, this cooperative game with these Universal Studios monsters. So you can play with 2, 3, or 4 of the monsters at a time based on how hard you want it to be. But all the monsters have their own different win objectives. So, for instance, to defeat Dracula, you need to go and destroy his 4 coffins. In order to defeat Frankenstein and his bride, or Frankenstein's monster and his bride, you have to be able to basically humanize them both, get them to both be humanized before they meet. And if they're able to meet up before, then it's bad news. But if they meet up afterwards, then you succeeded that part of that game. And they all have different ways you win. And it's a cooperative game. It's so much fun. We were able to teach it to our 7-year-old, and she loved it too.
She was 6 at the time, yeah.
She was 6 at the time, yeah. And I had to help her quite a bit, but it was kind of that spooky horror theme without being, like, scary. And
yeah, exactly. Spooky horror without scary. Yes.
Yeah, and
that's our list right there.
There's nothing scary on here. Go away, monster.
Go away, monster. Scooby-Doo. They're like the most innocent horror list.
So Horrified, really fun. I enjoyed it. It was actually my top 10 games of all time when we made our list last year. Or was it this year? Whenever it was in my top 10 of all time. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it is a fun one. And like Ryan said, we can play it with our kids. You can play it with adult children. And so it makes it kind of a more fun family experience if you wanted to do something like that in this season without, giving them nightmares. So That's always a good one. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching our list. And make sure to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. You can also find us in all the places. On Facebook, we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. On Twitter, we are Ryan and Bethany 1. And on Instagram, we are Ryan and Bethany.
Everyone, thanks for watching, and happy Halloween!
No, it's a great pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
It's a great
That's more our speed.
Yeah. I got a rock.
Bye.